So what happens when you get an idea, which means you have to totally rebrand your entire creative business? Well, you scrap all the hard work you've done in the past and you start all over. Okay, this obviously isn't the best piece of advice in the world, but it is kind of what I did. So why am I doing this? Well, it's the same reason that I'm here right in front of your screens right now doing this video. I want to share my creative process with you guys, with the world. Creating is what I love doing. Be it graphic design, be it photography, illustration, or one of the many other creative things that I do. Now, I'm a big believer in the fact that the process of creation is the most rewarding and interesting part of the process. Like, it's not the final product, it's the actual process of making that. And I want to share that process with you, with the world. Now, obviously, this isn't the whole story. I mean, me just wanting to share my creative projects isn't exactly a reason to rebrand your entire creative business. That is because I recently discovered that my name is actually already taken. So my freelance graphic design business was actually under the same name as another company, and that would have been fine in the past when I'm just doing design commissions. But now that I'm trying to do some videos, share my process, and build some brand recognition, having something unique to me is pretty much mandatory. Not to mention that the logo I was using for my old graphic design business is kind of dated. So now that we know what we're doing, let's get started. Step one is pretty clear. We've got to come up with a new name, something to put my business under. I'm looking for something unique, personal and fun, but also something that's clear that I'll be doing creative things. A key element that I really want to include is my name in some way, shape or form. It's not only a smart branding technique for recognition purposes, but it's also a really good chance for me to showcase what this is all about, me sharing my personal creative projects. That's particularly important because I plan on doing a really wide range of all kinds of creative things. So having something under my name that can tie it all together, pretty important. So keeping all that in mind, I ran through a whole heap of different names. It was a lot harder than I expected, not only to hit all the points in my brief, but also to find a name that hadn't already been taken. Because, I don't know if you noticed already, but the internet's been around for a few years, and Dan isn't exactly a uncommon name. But I stuck at it, working on words that I wanted to be associated with, like creative and making and that kind of thing, while also kind of avoiding words like design and photography and productions, because that can sort of put people's mind into a box of what I'm actually doing. And finally, after a lot of trial and error, I think I had it. Dan made this. Nice, succinct, simple and personal. Easy to brand, and it's quite clear that it's a creative endeavor, while also being open-ended enough to accommodate all the different little projects I plan on doing. And speaking of creating things, let's make a kick-ass logo. This is always my favorite part of a project, when I'm first going through those ideas and thinking about what it could be and looking at all these different inspirations and thinking, could that be for me? I personally use a really wide range of inspiration sources, from my design books to Instagram pages I follow to even Pinterest, even though it's clogged with AI slop nowadays. In terms of a style, I'm looking for something personal and relatable, while not going too far down the track of a professional corporate look. I'm a big fan of text-based logos, and so pulling from all my inspiration pieces, I started to sketch out some things in a kind of geometric styling that I tend to gravitate to in my own work anyway. Now, I have to admit that I started down admittedly a very wrong path. My initial instinct was to shorten Dan Made This into just DMT. I quickly realized that DMT is actually a pretty powerful psychedelic. Not exactly the thing you want to be branding your business underneath. So I took a hard left turn and pretty quickly stumbled across some inspiration that I really like the look of. A Polaroid logo redesign by a guy called Rafael Serra. It's fun, it's inviting, it's personal, it's got the geometric styling that I kind of tend to gravitate to in my own work anyway, with a touch of Y2K in there, which is always fun. I don't know, it just really feels like me, and that's pretty important, especially when I'm trying to brand my entire thing around my personality. So after a quick few concept sketches, I quickly realized that it would be a lot easier to visualize this particular styling in Illustrator. So I started up Illustrator and started working on those letter forms. Getting the general shape down was pretty easy. I was taking heavy inspiration from Fazdez's Polaroid logo and adapting it to the letters that I needed. An idea I had in my concepting was to include some kind of arrow in the logo, something to draw the eye down the page, to point to a project I'm showcasing, just to get that user flow in there. Arrows are great for this. It's kind of a visual call to action that gets people to follow it down the page and look for something, or to follow the arrows somewhere. So with the visual elements and the general letter styling worked out, I started iterating, making small changes in the arrow design and size, testing out different inside lines for letters, and fixing some letters that just didn't really feel right. Now, Rafael Serra's original design is very rounded and almost bubble-like, but the inside lines of each letter are kind of squared off, a design choice that I feel kind of juxtaposes against itself. So I experimented, especially with the A and the E forms, as those vowels are the kind of hardest to emulate in this styling. But with those details worked out, along with iterating on some rounded versus square-edged variations, I finally had the letter forms looking just how I wanted. Now, the design process had been going pretty smoothly up until this point, up until I started working on the vertical logo design. Doing designs over the years for all kinds of different places, I've come to really appreciate designs where there is a horizontal version and a vertical, or at least a square version, so you can slot that design nicely into whatever space you need it in. But when I started moving elements over from the mostly finalized horizontal version, I started to have some problems. You can see here how the words and the letter forms, being so uniform in their rounded squares, somehow line up in a perfectly imperfect way. Like on this one, how the Dan slots in perfectly with the D of made, which makes it really hard to read, while also giving an awkward comparison to the next line. Even if I cut off half of the T and the H to reduce the gap, it still just feels weird. But then if I keep the full gap on both, it feels even more disjointed. And then this one is just straight up wrong, like, ooh, no. So I had to settle for the lesser of the two evils and kind of go for a half gap. It kind of breaks the rules that I've set out in the letter forms of keeping it to a square grid, but as Picasso said, knowing when to break the rules makes you an artist. And after looking back on it the next day, I was really happy with this final layout. So with all that sorted out, I ran through everything, did some final touch-ups until I finally had the final designs. I'm so happy with this piece. It really sets the tone and the vibe that I'm going for with my entire rebranding. It's fun, kind of personal, clearly a creative endeavor, and the right level of professionalism with a splash of flair in there. So what do you guys think? Drop a comment down below, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. And so, unless it hasn't become clear yet, welcome to Dan Made This. I've got so many plans and cool projects in the works that I can't wait to share with you. So if you want to stick around and see what's in store, maybe hit the like button, subscribe if you like it, and I'll see you soon.